Hey, what's up guys? It's Matt Modi with OddsJam. This video, I'm just going to be teaching you how to use OddsJam. This can be viewed as an OddsJam tutorial. So a little bit of background about myself. Again, I mentioned my name is Matt Modi. I'm a content producer and betting analyst for OddsJam. I'm also a user of OddsJam. I've been using OddsJam for about a year now. So here are my numbers for almost exactly a year. Keep in mind that I am down 4 of the last 5 weeks, but we will see how this week ends up. Could be positive. So my profit hovered at about 14 at the highest. Now it sits at about 12, and it's 12.5K in the year. My bankroll started. I was risking about 500 a night as I started. This was during football season. As I started to increase my bankroll, you see lower lows, but you also see higher highs. The summer brought some sadness. There's a lot of summertime sadness during baseball season. I got it figured out, had 2 good weeks in a row, and then I've kind of been up or down, a little bit more down recently the past couple weeks, but I'm looking forward to getting this up. So this is all to tell you that I'm a user of OddsJam, and a couple important notes here just to start off. Variance happens. This is probably the most important thing that I want to get across, is that bad variance is just the nature of sports betting. Sometimes you bet on the Cincinnati Bengals money line and they miss an extra point for the win. They miss a field goal for the win. Sometimes you bet the Chiefs to cover and Justin Herbert with a broken rib throws a touchdown pass to cover the 4.5 point spread in a meaningless game with like 30 seconds left. That happens. It's very unfortunate. It's frustrating. It's just the nature of sports betting. Obviously, if you are consistently losing time over time, then yeah, you're going to want to change stuff up. But if you are like me and you have significantly more up weeks than down weeks, accepting variance is just the nature of sports betting. So all of this information comes from using the OddsJam bet tracker. I will get into the bet tracker in significantly more detail. I just want to highlight how important it is to be tracking your bets because you can get insight into all of this situation. So overall, like I said, 12.5 roughly K in profit. I have right now 2.5, just under 2.5K in pending bets. This is mostly for NFL Sunday. My ROI at the highest before the summer was at about 8%. Now it's been hovering between about 4 and 5. It was at 5 before this rough week. Now it's at 4%. Beating closing line. I will get into that as well. This is basically how often do the bets I place. Exactly what it sounds like. Beat the closing line. The closing line being the no vig odds of what OddsJam calculates, which I will get into. So first things first, let's talk about the tools. The bread and butter of OddsJam is this positive expected value tool. This is where the majority of my profits come from. As you can see, 2/3, 3/4 of my profit comes from using OddsJam, from using the positive expected value page. The way positive expected value betting works. So OddsJam pulls lines from a bunch of different sports books, thousands and thousands of odds across thousands of markets, historical data, takes into account all this information, spits out a formula which determines what are the sharp, quote unquote, sharp sports books. What sports books consistently do the best job at pricing odds. OddsJam, based on their back testing, you found out which one of those sports books, what those sports books are, and use them to take a weighted average to identify the no vig odds. So I will get into this in a little bit. What you need to know about positive expected value betting. Number one, Google OddsJam, YouTube OddsJam positive EV. There's a ton of videos specifically going in a much bigger deep dive specifically about positive expected value. But at its core, positive expected value, the definition of it means you are placing bets that you, as the sports bettor, know have a higher probability of occurring than the reflected odds that you are placing on the sports book. So the no vig odds is what we view as the sports bettor, the real percentage of that bet hitting. So in this case, just looking at this first one, this NFL player prop, the no vig odds have this roughly plus 111. So if you click this calculator, it gives you the win percentage, just under 50%. So in that positive expected value formula, I said the sports bettor knows that this bet has a higher percent chance of occurring. This is taken from the no vig odds of the OddsJam line. Again, back tested, used a bunch of different sharp sports books, taking a weighted average to get this number. Now I'll explain what the vig is in a little bit, but that's the core of positive expected value betting. And the reflected odds of the sportsbook that we are placing the bet at in this case would be Caesars at plus 106. So we know, based on all this information, that this bet should be priced at basically plus 100 with a 49.97% chance of hitting. But the reflected odds on Caesars at plus 106, if you go to calculators, you go to odds converter calculator, you type in plus 106, has this bet occurring at about a 48.54% chance of hitting. So what this means is that if we're consistently placing bets at plus 106 odds, we place a gazillion bets at plus 106 odds. If we hit those bets at a 48.54% rate, if that's what our hit rate is on those bets, we will break even. We will have made no money from that interaction. Any number above that, 48.55, 48.6, whatever, any number above this 48.54 number, if it hits above that number, we will be profitable. So that is the formula of how we get positive expected value. The cool part about OddsJam is it tells you your mathematical profit margin here on the left. So this one bet, this positive expected value bet, Cortland Sutton under 57.5 receiving yards, has a profit margin of about 2.94%. Now this profit margin, this number, is very, very important. It's literally telling you how much money you could figure to make on this individual bet. So at 2.94%, if I bet $100 on this player prop, I could figure to make $2.94 on this play. If I bet $50, I could figure to make $1.48, 47 cents. That's how this percent works. Now I know your first question is going to say, how can there be a mathematical profit margin for a bet of a game that hasn't occurred yet? Either you're going to win and you're going to get all your profit, or you're going to lose and you're going to lose all your risk. It's a great point. It's a great question. This is your theoretical profit margin based on the difference of the no-vig line and the line that you bet it at. In this case, again, plus 100, plus 106. What you will notice is that over time, if you place enough bets like 250, 500, 1,000, your theoretical profit margin percent, your theoretical profit margin will start to equal your actual profit margin. So that is where we get this profit margin from, knowing that over time, the law of large numbers will work in your favor, and that is what your actual profit will turn out to be. Now, there's 2 points I want to make after that. Your next thoughts are going to say, okay, cool, I get it, but $2.94 doesn't really seem like that much. It's a great point, and I have 2 rebuttals to that. Number one, it's just one bet. Think about how many bets you are placing over the course of a day. 10, 15, 20, 25. This $2.94 turns into $50, $100 on one night of betting, which is my second point. This game, depending on when you are placing the bet, is going to be realized depending on the game is played. Tonight, tomorrow night, on Sunday, whenever the next NFL game is. So you'll realize this profit within 5 days, maybe, depending when you're placing the bet. Normally, if you're investing in like the stock market or something, you're getting 8% a year return on investment from sports betting. If you're just placing all of these bets on the page, you're getting 20% if you want to add up all of these together. So that's really, really important to understand this EV percent and understand that it's a long process. We're not getting rich overnight. We're not saying, hey, if you use OddsJam, you'll hit on a 3 zillion odds parlay and only risk $1 and make $1 million. That is not the norm. That is the outlier. So a couple things to note that I haven't mentioned yet regarding positive EV. So the VIG, I've hinted at it. The VIG it's just the juice that sportsbooks price odds. It's how they make their money. Standard line, if you're looking through a sportsbook, is minus 110 on each way. Minus 110 on the over, minus 110 on the under. What that means is that if there are 2 different bettors who bet $100 on each side, the winner will profit $90. The loser will lose $100. The sportsbook will profit $10 no matter what. No matter what the outcome is, they'll profit $10. That's how they make their money. So in order to figure out their true line, what they truly think of a market, it's important to remove the VIG, which is what the OddsJam line does. Now, these recommended filters, you see this button here, recommended filters. For those of you first using OddsJam, I would not place a bet without the recommended filters button checked off. You're probably wondering what it means, and I'll explain it just quickly here, but there is a video that Alex, the OddsJam co-founder, explains the recommended filters in greater detail All you need to know is that when you are positive expected value betting, you want to find opportunities in which you are betting on a clear outlier. When you're looking at the holistic betting view, the holistic betting market, you're betting on a clear outlier. That shows a valuable opportunity. So let's go back to this Cortland Sutton one. The odds that we know are at plus 106 on Caesars. Look at where every other book is pricing it. Minus 115, minus 114, minus 115, minus 115. You look across the board, every other book is pricing this not only for minus money, but not even at minus 110. They're pricing it significantly more favorably than the Caesars line. This is an outlier. Let's look at another betting opportunity, plus 110. Same thing here. Looks like the closest odds are at plus 100, but the average odds that OddsJam shows you is at minus 112. You truly want to be betting on outliers. You want to be betting on opportunities like Caesars, like this one, where it's truly different than the rest of the market. You're probably wondering why. Basically, the logic behind that is all of these sports books, BetMGM, Caesars, DraftKings, Tipico, BetOnline, OddsJam, which is pulled from Pinnacle, they all have their own proprietary method of pricing odds. They all have their own different way of pricing odds. It mostly just depends on where the money's coming from. The sports betting is essentially like the stock market. The more money comes in on one way, it's going to become more expensive to buy that. The more people buy Amazon stock, it's going to be more expensive for the future people to buy Amazon stock. It's the same thing with sports betting. The more people are buying this over, it's going to become more expensive to bet on that over. So what the outlier is telling you is that every book has gotten more action on this overplay, except for Caesars. So Caesars has it mispriced. That's kind of how that makes sense. So with positive expected value betting, it's a long-term goal. Accept variance. You're going to be profitable in the long run over 250, 500, 1,000 bets. But you have to accept some variance. You have to accept that it's not a get-rich-quick scheme. So in terms of unit sizing, it's up to you in terms of what you are comfortable dedicating towards sports betting. All I will say is that if you click this calculator here, it'll tell you exactly how much to put on a bet. My recommendation would be, if you are going to use the calculator, round up or down, round this one to $60, round this one to $50, round this one to $50. You get my point. Round to the nearest number divisible by 5 in the long run. Just makes more sense. So that is positive expected value betting. Now, I mentioned the bet tracker. So let's say you like this bet, Cortland Sutton. I locked it in. I think this one's really good. If you want to add it to your bet tracker, all you need to do, click this plus button, enter the amount you put on. So this was a $60 bet. Click save. And now, if you go, once this saves, if you go to your bet tracker, click bets, it takes you to every bet that you have locked in using OddsJam. Now, there's a couple things to keep in mind here. The first thing you see, the odds. You see red, you see green. What this means, so when a bet is green, it means that the bet that you have placed is still beating the closing line. The closing line is the no vig odds. So if I go back to the positive EV page, after you place a bet, we continue to track the no vig odds of that bet to make sure that it is still positive expected value. An unfortunate reality of sports betting are the odds are constantly changing. Odds are never stagnant. So this plus 106 won't be there forever. Even the no vig odds you saw change slightly. They're no longer plus 100.11. Now they're plus 100.8. So OddsJam is constantly monitoring the bets, monitoring the closing line, making sure that you are still getting a profitable play. So when it's green, you see right here, better odds than the closing line. When it's red, that means you have worse odds than the closing line. It means that the odds moved against you, no longer in your favor. So back to my homepage, I am beating the closing line roughly 68% of the time. People ask me, what's a good number to have? Anything above 50%, you should be profitable, but the higher the better. So mine was at about 70, 75%, had a couple down weeks. Unsurprisingly, my percent beating closing line went down. Another question that I get a lot is what to do when your bet turns red, what to do when you are no longer beating the closing line. Now, for me, there are two different options, and it depends on who you ask. What you could do is the second you find out that a bet is no longer beating the closing line, and you can set up alerts. So if you go to profile, you go to settings, you go to bet tracker, you can set up so you get emails whenever your bets are no longer beating the closing line. So one thing you could do is if your bets are no longer beating the closing line, you get that email, immediately cash it out. Go to the sportsbook and cash it out. Unfortunately, not every sportsbook gives you that option. For me, my personal preference, I like to wait closer to when the games start. Like this Dolphins one here, it was positive expected value when I placed it. Then the odds went to plus 168, the CLV, so it was not positive expected value. Now it is. This Bengals one, it's positive EV when I placed it. Now it no longer is. I'm going to wait closer to game time. I probably give it to about an hour before game time. If it's still red, then I will try to go close it out. But, cash it out. I'll go to cash it out. But I will only cash out bets if I can get a full 100% refund. So this bet I locked in for $100. If I can only get $90 cash back, I will just let it ride. I don't think it's worth guaranteeing that you are going to lose $10 just to cash something out that's red. Sometimes, if I go to my one bets here, we will see you'll get lucky, win bets that are red, and you'll also see that you will get unlucky and you'll lose bets that are green. You see a lot of these nerfy bets have ended up green but lost. That happens over time. Obviously, the more green bets you place, the more you will win long term. But for one individual bet, you could get unlucky. And now we see the CLV populated for this game. So now we know that the closing line, it's still green. It's at plus 100, still what it shows on the positive expected value page, still plus 100. But this is showing you the importance of the bet tracker. And if you want to go to this page here, which is just my dashboard, you just hover over bet tracker, click dashboard, and it takes you to this page here, exactly what I showed you at the beginning of the video. But again, to add a play to the bet tracker, it's very easy. You just click the plus button, you put in the amount that you staked, and you click save, and then it adds it to your bet tracker, and it'll track whether you're currently beating the closing line or not. And if you want to turn on the bet notifications to get emailed when you are no longer beating CLV, you just click your name, you click profile, you go to bet tracker, and you just click this button to select that. So that's positive expected value. That's not all that OddsJam has to offer though. Other tools, arbitrage. If you're unfamiliar what arbitrage is, basically it means that you can place a bet on both sides and you will guarantee to make money. It's not a scam. You will literally guarantee to make money if you are arbitrage betting. And it's all based on the odds. It's based on sportsbooks having different priced odds, and we can take advantage when they have mispriced odds. So for this one here, it's a player strikeouts prop. You can make 2.87% return on the amount that you risk. The one side of it has it at plus 152. The other side of it has it at minus 135. So if I want to bet, if I click the calculator, it'll tell you how much to risk on each side. So if I want to bet $100 on one side, it's telling me that I should bet roughly 145 on the other one, and I will guaranteed, no matter what happens, I will profit $7.23. That's arbitrage. Arbitrage is a great way to supplement your income. If you want to have some risk-free guaranteed income coming in, you can do that with arbitrage. Arbitrage is also great to use if there's a game, like let's say there's a Monday night game, Monday Night Football. You don't have a feel for it. You don't have a feel for the total, you don't have a feel for the spread, no player props are sticking out to you. That's fine. Just go to the game, see if you can find an arbitrage for it, still make money on a game that you didn't really have any feel for. So that's what arbitrage is. Boosts, it's really cool. OddsJam has a page that pulls all of the different odds boosts from every single book. Literally every single book, it's telling you the odds boosts. What I will say about these odds boosts, these should not be blindly bet. You should look into each one and determine if they are a positive expected value odds boost or not. And if you have any questions about whether a bet is positive EV or not, you can actually use OddsJam to determine whether an odds boost is positive expected value or not. Just look up OddsJam, YouTube, odds boost, low hold. This is mostly to be used if you have some sort of like playthrough bonus where it essentially provides opportunities where you can place a bet on each side and you will guarantee to have zero profit. So in this case, you're not trying to make money. What you're trying to do is just play through some sort of bonus. So let's say I have $1,000 playthrough on BetMGM. I'll just play $1,000, on Bet Rivers. I would just place the $1,000 bet on Bet Rivers, and it shows you here. And then I would place $1,500 on the win bet side, and no matter what, I won't have lost money from that encounter. So it's a playthrough bonus. It also can be used if you're close to hitting another tier. So sportsbooks, they have a bunch of different VIP programs and stuff. If you're really close to going from gold to platinum, or whatever, you can also use the low holds page to meet that criteria. And the last one that I like, the free bet the free bet converter, which I skipped. This is to be used if you have a free bet and you want to convert that free bet into cash. Again, there's tons of videos on the OddsJam YouTube channel that shows you exactly what to do when you have a free bet. Basically, the long story short is, so if you have a free bet, you can use a free bet converter to convert that into cash, and it tells you the percent rate you can convert that into cash. So if I have a free bet on, let's say I have it on, I don't know, I have it on PlayUp. You can search PlayUp, and then it'll provide opportunities where you can place your free bet on PlayUp, and then you can place the other side of that bet on, let's in this case, PointsBet. And no matter what, I will have made 80% of my conversion. So if I have a $100 free play amount on PlayUp, I would place $360 on the other side of it on the Rams money line, and I'll guarantee to make about $80. So I will profit. So I would have converted that to a 80% rate. The last one is the middles tool. The middles tool is similar to arbitrage, in which you're placing a bet on both sides. It's not a promotion, it's not risk-free or anything like that. But depending on how things shake out, you could win both of your bets. So in this case, you bet the Cowboys first half team total over 7.5. You bet it under 8.5. If it lands at exactly 8, you would have won both sides of your bet. Now, middle betting can be really beneficial, specifically with the NFL, when there are very specific numbers that are important to get above or below. Like 2.5 and 3.5 is great. 9.5 and 10.5 is great. 6.5 and 7.5 is great because of field goal, 3 points, touchdown, 7 points, stuff like that. So middle betting can be really, really valuable when you are betting on the NFL. Can also be valuable in terms of player props when the numbers are higher. So you could have one book like we see here, receiving yards, 38.5, 40.5. If he lands on exactly 40, you win both bets. Over 55.5, under 56.5. It lands at exactly 56, you win both sides of your bet. So those are all the different tools that OddsJam has to offer. Most importantly, of course, the OddsJam positive EV page, as I mentioned, that's where you make the majority of your money. That's where you'll have the highest ROI. But arbitrage is great to just have some risk-free income. All those other tools are still really, really helpful. But of course, don't forget to use the bet tracker, track all your bets, see when your bets are no longer beating the closing line, when they are red, when they are green. When they start turning red, then you can think about cashing them out and go from there. But that's going to be it. So if you have any questions, let me know. Comment on the video with your questions. Email me, matthew@oddsjam.com, with any questions. But that's it. So I appreciate you guys watching. Make sure to click that subscribe button to get all of this content moving forward. And that's it. So thanks for watching and have a good one.